Welcome to Conversations That Make a Difference with your host, Teresa Velardi. We believe that authentic, meaningful, and diverse conversations are the glue that binds us together. Our discussions remind us we have the power to uplift, challenge, stretch, and invite dynamic growth. Are you, like many, feeling like you're flying by the seat of your pants through life? Join us for conversations filled with gratitude, values, abundance, authenticity, and faith. Here's the host of our show, Teresa Velardi.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Conversations That Make a Difference. I'm so excited to have my guests, Emilio and Daniela Roman, with me today. But as you know, we start with a prayer. Every time we get together, we say a prayer. We use the serenity prayer. So God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And it is by God's grace that we are fabulous, blessed, and highly favored, living in our greatness, using our gifts and talents, making a difference in the lives of others with passion and purpose. And all of God's great universe is conspiring in our favor. And together we say, Amen. Amen. Emilio, unmute yourself over there. So we are talking to Daniela and Reverend Emilio Roman. And let me just tell you a little bit about this powerhouse couple. Their lives embody resilience, faith, and a passion for empowering others. Daniela is an international best-selling author and speaker, celebrated for her empowering message and culinary expertise. I've heard a lot about that culinary expertise. Yes, I have. Her acclaimed series, Behind Closed Doors, I Survived Domestic Violence, and You Can Too, reached #1 on Amazon. And so this is her book, just so that you can see it, if you want to get a copy. And there are 12 stories in here for you to read about other people who have gone through the same thing. And so we support one another. When you get through something, you find it to the other side, you tell your story so you can give somebody else a hand up. That's my philosophy, and I know that it is yours too. So she's also honoring her heritage through Daniela's Delicious Delights, LLC, where she shares her love for food and her kitchen confidence course. Daniela's heart shines brightest as a mother and grandmother, cherishing her grandsons, Tomas and Sebastian. And Reverend Emilio Roman, USMC, known as the Master Networker, is a medically retired U.S. Marine, best-selling author, dynamic speaker, and publisher. Thank you for your service, Emilio. First things first, you are a Guinness World Record holder and former international bodybuilder. Emilio has inspired audiences worldwide by helping countless individuals craft and share their stories. His series, Born to Risk, is one of the books that made him on the list of a Guinness Book of World Records. So, and I'm excited. We're going to talk a little bit more about this later on. But you help individuals craft and share their stories. Above all his titles, he treasures being a servant leader, a devoted husband, a proud abuelo, grandfather. And together, Daniela and Emilio share a powerful story of overcoming adversity and building a legacy and lifting others to step boldly into their purpose. So I am so grateful to have the two of you with me today. I am looking forward to our conversation because I think that you're going to speak to a lot of people today. I think that your story speaks to a lot of people. Let me just give you a little bit of a description what we discussed we were going to talk about today. Emilio and Daniela are passionate about inspiring and motivating others through real, honest storytelling. And this is why we get along so well, because our philosophy is exactly the same. They believe that sharing your story isn't just powerful, it's necessary. When people stay silent, Listen to these words. When people stay silent, they may unknowingly withhold the very message that someone else needs to hear to heal, grow, or move forward. They both have walked through challenges, and by opening up about their journeys, they aim to give others permission and courage to do the same. I love you guys. Thanks for coming on Conversations That Make a Difference. It's so good to see you. So, first of all, tell me, how did the two of you meet?
She tells it better. And before we go on, thank you, Teresa. I need your viewers to understand how you and I met. I think before we go into that, I would love, because we fell in love. I fell in love with you and your son and the relationship. You don't mind sharing that? I love it.
Go ahead. You share how we met. Go ahead. I love when you tell it. Go ahead.
Yes, listen, we were at an event and I was there to do the invocation. And then I was nominated to be one of the folks there with our beloved soul and give me the title, because I don't want to chop it up. The title
Voice Against Trafficking, and it's Andy Berger, who is a frequent guest on this show. Yes.
Right. And so Andy Berger and I met, and it was just awesome to be around that topic, because I didn't know much about it, but to be there to do the invocation. And then we got to meet. I mean, we got connected, and it was just instant. It was like we've known each other for years.
Yes.
And yeah, so it was a blessing. So I just wanted to share that with your audience. And we've stayed connected after the event.
Yes.
We've supported Andy Berger, and that's how you and I, and the backdrop, the DJ Dizzy. Yeah. So I mean, it's just great. I just have to say that. And now Daniela, she tells it better on how we met.
Okay, so Daniela, how did you meet this man?
In high school.
In high school, really?
Yeah, we went to high school together, and we didn't date or anything like that. But I had a crush on him all through high school, but he didn't know that. So fast forward, we graduated. I mean, we were in English class together and, lunch, whatever, but never really like real conversation or anything, just kind of in passing. So fast forward 28 years. I was actually going through a separation, a divorce, and we connected. Where else? On Facebook, I saw him comment.
Facebook.
Right. I saw him comment on a mutual friend of ours that we went to school with. And I'm like, wow, I have not seen that name in years. So he was doing fitness classes at a local park. And, we lived close by. And I was going to go, but then I never did. But then one night he just messaged me on Messenger. And it was 1:30 in the morning. And I would have never answered. If it was anyone else, I would have never responded. But I'm like, and he's like, why aren't you sleeping? You know how you see that little dot? You used to see a little dot. You could tell somebody's on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why aren't you sleeping? Why are you messaging me? So we talked from that time, 1:30 in the morning till 6 a.m.
Wow.
Just texting. And, just shared just what we've been doing and, all that. 2 days later, we met up at our local park that we both really like. And I just say the rest is history. It's just, that was it.
And then it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome, Teresa, because we connected. And what she neglected to say is, I didn't know she had a crush on me. So my first words when she said, I had a crush on you throughout high school. I'm like, why didn't you tell me? We could have had 10 grandbabies by now.
Wow.
Typical guy, right? So that was that was the conversation. And then it's just been amazing because she got to open up a part of her world, Teresa, which is the point of why we're here, right? We talk about shared pain is less pain. And that's a philosophy that we both subscribe to. So I don't want to get ahead of myself, but that's how it tied in. That conversation, we recognize that we had so much more in common than just that we went to school together, that we've had a family. It was incredible. We both had pain that we never really shared publicly, and that really united us.
And so you say healing happens together. You need other people who are going through healing in order to be able to do your own healing. I think that is that's so true, because left to our own devices, and correct me if I'm wrong, left to our own devices, we can go places in our head that we may not go if we have somebody else to share our stories with, and what we've been through and how we got through it and so forth. Would you agree? Yeah.
Listen, we not only do we agree, we've lived it out where we understand that we're only as sick as our secrets, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so it's been said in the rooms of the recovery, whether it's AA, NA, anything that ends with an A, they all say the same thing, right? That, we can't heal in secret, and a lot of us do, to include me. And so when Danielle and I talked and we opened up, right, because it wasn't our first rodeo with marriage. We already had kids. We were the second part of our lives, and we're just like, hey, this is where we're at. We're not tolerating this and that anymore. She shared something with me, and I think that this was segue beautifully into what brought us closer and what helped her to heal.
Yeah. So go ahead. You want to talk about it, Daniela?
Yeah, well, we were having a conversation one day, and he shared his childhood traumas that he had gone through. And he can, share a little bit of that. But that just triggered something in me that I had, at 19 years old, I was sexually assaulted in my sleep. But I had not shared that with anyone for 30 years.
Wow.
Just never told anyone. And like he says, we think we're healing in secret, right? We can't heal in secret. But just by moving on with your life, I was working, raising my son, had a business, all this stuff. You keep so busy, right? You figure you've dealt with that, but all these things manifested. I had like depression, anxiety, eating disorder, all these kind of things, and didn't know why.
Yeah.
And, from him bringing that up, I shared that, and it was like such a relief, like just to say it, right? Don't know where that person is now. Don't know what happened. Doesn't matter. It was just a point of saying it, right? And getting it out finally. And the main thing he said to me was, forgiveness is key, right? And forgiveness is, as not for the other person, it's for us. So I always thought, like, if you can't forgive unless somebody apologizes, or, you kind of have some kind of closure. And I had none of that, but I didn't need that. He helped me see, like, I didn't need that. Just forgive and let it go.
Exactly. And you're absolutely right. Forgiveness is for you, because when you don't, this is my opinion, when we don't go that route and forgive other people for what they've done to us, we stay stuck in the muck and the mire of what happened or what didn't work, or who did what. The conversation of I'm going to call it the dirty conversation, because it's like staying stuck in the mud. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah. And until you actually get to that place where you can completely forgive that person, regardless of what the damage was, what the event was that caused you to be on the road to separation, divorce, whatever, or as you said, assaulted. Once you get to that place of forgiveness, it opens up a whole new world. How did that do that for each of you?
Yeah. So, first and foremost, I'm so proud of Daniela, again, because that healing, right, that she experienced, she didn't just stop there, right? She went ahead, and that book, if you don't mind, Teresa, that book that you have there, Behind Closed Doors, she actually shared that. It was just an idea. Thank you. It was an idea that she had. And I said, listen, you've come out on this on the other side now. You're talking about it. I said, you can really help more people. And because of her giving heart, she came up with this. And I would like for her to share the story, because we write stories, and a lot of us, we put books out, we do posts, and we don't know where it lands, right? We never know. We can never calculate where it lands. And she had one story that she recognized. Wow, like, I opened up, I put everything out there. Like, how am I going to be judged? And there's two sides to this conversation. One, what her mom said to her, because she never told her mom. Her mom read it for the first time in the book.
Yeah.
And then the receiving end of what the other lady. So if you don't mind sharing that, because that ties into the healing process.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and coming from an Italian family, right? I think you know this, right? Like what happens, at home stays at home, but even though it didn't happen at home, but you get it. So you don't share stuff like that, right? So my first thing when he said, you need to share your story, my first thought was like, what is my family going to think? Like I can't put that out there and it's embarrassing. There was a lot of layers to, the relationships, a lot of things happened that my parents had no idea. So, I made the decision. I just, he's like, this is not, about your family. You're sharing your story in order to help other women, and at the same time, help your healing. So I did a co-authorship out of Canada. And when I got it, the copies, I signed one to my mom, and I was like, my heart was racing. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's going to read this and she's going to flip. Cause my mom, of course she loves her kids, but it's just certain things, it's just my mom's the type, like I thought that would be like, how could you put that out there? And oh my God, this is all going in my head. And she goes, oh, thank you. She's like, I'm going to read this. I'm going to sit on my balcony tomorrow morning and read it. Well, that didn't happen. Like she read it that night. And she sent me a message, right? I don't even know. She didn't call. She sent me a message and I'm like, oh God, I was afraid to read it. She's like, I read your chapter. She's like, why didn't you tell us? We would have helped you.
Yeah.
Like that was it. Yeah. So we create all this like stuff in our head, and like, that was it. That was her only reaction, and I can imagine because I was like, and then of course I was like, I'm fine. That was like 30 years prior, I'm like, I'm way past that. But I had to understand she's hearing it for the first time.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. And I think, part of, correct me if I'm wrong, because this is, I've gone through things like what you've gone through and the domestic violence, everybody, the general consensus between people who have been through stuff like that is, shh, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody, but it's in the silence, as you say, we are sick as our secrets, and it's in the silence where we suffer. And for a lot of years, people who knew my story said, you should write your story. You should write your story. And I got stuck in the what if conversation. What if they find out? What if this one finds out? What if he finds out? What if whatever? So the what ifs are a trap. They are a trap to keep you stuck. And besides, people who have perpetuated these things on other people, regardless of what the damage that was done or the crime was, if you will, whatever was done, those kind of people usually don't read books anyway. So you have nothing to worry about.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. So, and you can always change the name to protect the innocent and the guilty. So, that's the thing. And I think what you did was very courageous, and I've since shared my story many times. And I want to thank you for putting it together with other women who have gone through similar or even different circumstances, but suffered the same harm to themselves emotionally, physically, spiritually, because we stay stuck in the trauma instead of moving through it. What are some of the ways, and Emilio, you can answer this too. What are some of the ways that you got through? I know writing is one of them. And that was my salvation. I was able to write every day. Like I started writing, especially like in the 12-step rooms, they tell you, find something to be grateful for. Talk about that. Speak about that, Emilio, because I think that's the point, right?
Yeah, no, thank you again for the question. And the healing process looks a little different for everyone, right? Depending on how much I believe we're willing to be honest with ourselves, because, life is won or lost in the mind first. And a lot of us can really get caught up in the what ifs, right? What if? But when you come to a point where maybe you have arrived and I arrived where it's called the rock bottom, right? Where you're not going anywhere, right? You're just kind of looking up and it's like God, you start questioning God, did God create man or did man create God? Like you start getting into these philosophical stuff. And then I start looking at my blessings. And where I'm going with this is I got into a habit of the gratitude. I still do it to this day, Teresa. 5 things that I'm most grateful for. And I attempt to keep it what's called the 3 Ps. I keep it in the present, I keep it positive, and I keep it personal, right? Like tomorrow morning, I can tell you right now, you're going to be my gratitude list, right? I'm grateful for Teresa, who had Daniela and I on her show, right? And it's still present, it's still positive. So that has done something, because when you've gone through trauma, right, your mind, your muscles, the tissues are locked in on this low vibration. So you've got to check in with yourself. And that's what I do daily. I do that. And whenever I skip that, I can tell that my day's different, the ebbs and flow. And so lastly, beautiful thing that you did, the serenity prayer. That is my go-to. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Understand, that's not just outside. I've said that when my wife and I are going through something. She's asking me to do something. I thought I did it, and I want her to do something, and I'm like, and we can lock in on that. And like, you know, so I'm walking away mumbling. Well, she goes, "What'd you say?" I'm like, so that's serenity prayer. Yeah. That's my anchor.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm so glad you said that, because the serenity prayer is not just a prayer. It's a roadmap. It's a roadmap to healing. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that cannot change. We cannot change the past. We cannot change what happens. We cannot do anything differently today to make anything that happened yesterday any different than it was. So that's the first part. Grant me the serenity to accept the things that cannot change. Courage to change the things I can. Raise your hand and say, I went through this too. Or I'm going to speak it out loud now because it's driving me crazy in my brain and I've got to get it out of my system. Writing, by the way, there is something that happens between the head and the heart when you write with your hand, not the computer. When you write it out, you physically release it onto the page, and that's what saved me. That's what helped me to get through the trauma of everything that had happened to me. And Daniela, obviously, you wrote your story. You went through the same thing, right? You went through the same thing that I did. The courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It's in finding that space where you can create, whether it's writing, whether it's whatever it is, speaking, whatever it is that you do to help yourself and help other people. The courage to change, and the wisdom to know the difference. Again, you don't have to tell the gory details. You can just know that whatever they were, you can put a lock on that door and shut it, and you don't have to open it again. But the forgiveness piece is the other part that goes in there. What was it like? Excuse me. You don't have to tell anybody anything when you're forgiving them for something. But if you have, and I don't know whether or not you did, but if either one of you has had to tell someone that you forgive them, what was their response to you? And it doesn't have to be in any one of these circumstances, but if somebody wronged you in any way, what was the response when you forgive somebody?
Yeah, well, I can only speak so it's a great question, by the way. For me, and Daniela shared her part, but you didn't hear what I had, what I went through. And I was molested as a young man by family members, not once, but several times. And the one person that did this, they went on to get involved in the church, right? And so they went and they changed their life. But I was dealing with this trauma, this unresolved issues, and I drank myself. I really thought it was a nightmare. Like, I didn't think it was real. So I had compartmentalized it in my brain until I started to realize, and having conversations with people, and someone was saying, you know, so-and-so molested this person, this so-and-so molested that person. And then hearing those things, man, I started to, my thoughts, I can tell you, I mean, if you can get incarcerated for someone's thoughts, I mean, the things that I was going through, I was plotting and scheming, and I was like, oh my Lord. So serenity prayer again, right? So what I did was, and this is way before we met, and I was dealing with this, I wrote a letter. I actually wrote a letter because I knew where this individual lives, and we would occasionally run into each other at events with, you know, and I realized at that point in my maturity that it was it wasn't a thing anymore. It wasn't that I've made it up. So fast forward, I dropped the letter off, and I really wanted to hand it to him in particular. But the thing is, I never found out if he received it or not. I gave it to a neighbor, and I said, listen, this is very important, and I know that you know him. So I just wrote everything down. That was cathartic. Just writing it down, being honest, and saying, I forgive you. I said, this is not resentment. And I said, I forgive you for what you did. And I just poured myself out. And I said, I understand you did this to other people now. I said, I know that. We know this now. I said, I'm grateful that you're finding peace with God, because this would not be this conversation. I didn't threaten him in the letter, but I was very clear that I'm glad he's doing and he's on this path. So that was, Teresa, the extent of it, because I've never seen him since. And I believe he's still around, but I'm glad I let that go.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the part that's letting go. What about you, Daniela?
Yeah. Well, again, we were connected when you did that, because you had me write a letter. Yeah. You dropped it off at this person. Yeah.
I stand corrected. Okay.
Yeah, it was at the very beginning.
At the very beginning. That's what it was. Okay.
And he had me write a letter. He's like, just write it out. I know the person's name, you know, so I wrote it as if, and like I said, I don't know if this person is dead or alive, but just to do it and get it out on paper is like such a relief, you know, it was a big release for me. So I wrote how I felt, you know, and that, you know, ending, I forgive you. Hope you made changes in your life. Don't know, you know, and just signed it. But again, didn't give it to him. But just me doing that was releasing me from all of that, because, you know, here's the thing. These people have gone on with their lives.
Yes.
We don't know for sure, but probably does not affect them the way it affected us. We let it control our whole life and end up in addiction or, you know, depression, anxiety, all these things. And we're punishing ourselves when they're just moving about their life, you know? So people, you know, like us that have done that, you know, now I see them like, wow, wasted a lot of years of pain and suffering, you know, to myself, you know, when I could have just been free of this a long time ago, but you don't know what you don't know, you know, until finally I did. Yeah. So it was a huge release. I never had to say it to these, you know, this and the people in my abusive relationship never, you know, physically said, I forgive you, but for me, I did.
Yeah. And Teresa, to Daniela's point, you notice when we're talking about something painful, my mind, like I had assumed that I did not, like we didn't know each other. She had to bring me back because it was so difficult to get to that point, to that letter.
I remember reading the letter.
She remember reading it. And now, like, she just brought me back. I was like, wow, that's right. You were. It was our first couple of months together.
Yeah. And there are some people who don't, who will say, well, what is that going to do? It's just a letter. So here's what I learned. There's a little trick that I learned from someone that, you know, you gave it to someone, Emilio, Daniela, you wrote it out and you kept it to yourself, but you wrote it out, and that's a cleansing in itself, right? For me, I was like, I would go read it again. And I'm like, well, I really don't know if I forgive them and how am I going to release this and blah, blah, blah. And then somebody told me something about burning what you write. So I got a coffee can and I wrote it all out again because I didn't learn the first time. I had to do it over and over again. I read it. I had to get rid of whatever it was that I wrote in order to be able to actually release it. And so what I did was I wrote it again, this time with more, and I don't know about you, but I was writing and then I was scribbling and I was angry and everything else.
A lot of emotions.
All of that emotion comes out, right? So I took it and I balled it up and I put it in a coffee can and I lit it on fire. And there is something about the fire and the smoke going up to heaven that really helped me to let go of whatever I needed to let go of at that particular time. And then fast forward many years, there came a time when I was doing some work and getting rid of some stuff and whatever. And a memory came back to me and I didn't want to go there, but I did. And I had to, for some reason, I felt like I had to say that I forgave him. And I called, and part of the reason why I wanted to call is because, you know, when you have two people in a relationship like this, they're both sick. Both of you are sick for loss of a better word, but you're both in this relationship and you both have a part in it. And for me, I believed that the things that I was doing was keeping him stuck in his addiction, and then was perpetuating the abuse. So I made a phone call and I said, whatever I did that may have kept you stuck in your addiction while we were together, I'm sorry. That's all I had to say. I'm sorry. And then I also said, I forgive you for everything that happened. That was part of that whole dynamic. And then they can do whatever they want with it. They can take it wherever they want, including telling somebody else that I took full responsibility for the demise of my marriage. Okay, well, if that's the way you look at it, happy day. But the point here is it's not about them. It's about us. Yes.
Yes, amen. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure someone is going to benefit from this. And listen, while this is a wonderful program, and I don't know who's on the other side, but if you have the opportunity, sharing is caring. Share this out with someone. Tag someone. If Daniela's story resonated with you, please let them connect. And you see Teresa shared her story. So this is not a time just for a like. Make sure you share, because this is important. It was conversations like this that help us heal.
Yeah, and makes a difference for someone else. Some of the biggest thing though is share, like you just said, Emilio. We shared part of ourselves that maybe we don't necessarily want to, but for someone else, and giving them the courage and the permission to go inside and do the work, do whatever's necessary, to make things different, giving the courage to do the same. Daniela, I'm going to ask you about your collaboration. After you put this book out, did people come to you and ask you to, did they want to connect with you and know more about you and your story? Did you help anyone beyond the pages of the book? I know you helped many people when you wrote the book. Anyone who wrote in the book, and anyone who read those stories can't help but have some sort of healing happen in them, or a door open where they can find their way out of a circumstance or situation that they may be in. So what was your experience after you wrote the book?
Well, aside from that book, I'll get to that in a second. The first co-authorship that I shared, that Emilio encouraged me to finally first share my story, that I was a little hesitant. A woman reached out to me after it launched, and she got a copy of the book, and I didn't know her. And she messaged me privately, and she said, "Thank you for sharing your story." She's like, "I gave this to my daughter, and it encouraged her to finally leave her abusive husband."
Wonderful.
So yeah, that confirmed it for me. I was like, wow. Like, it took my breath away. I'm like, wow. So that was confirmation that I did the right thing, because that's what I wanted, that kind of result. Not, when you share your story, it's not about, getting sympathy or like, oh, you went through, it's not what it's about. It's about inspiring and, and impacting somebody else. And a lot of these women because I did 3 editions of these, of the Behind Closed Doors.
Tough book to do.
And it's tough to, even though the women, they had conversations with me, even with him, but more with me, they were hesitant. So I had to kind of bring them around, because one, she doesn't go by her real name. And, all the same kind of fear, like, what is my family going to think? What is this? Just scared to tell all that. And a big part of it is, and I'm sure you'll get this, is like, it's just reliving all that. Because so much comes out, like what I told him when I started writing and thinking, I forgot so many things. I forgot I got thrown out of a moving car. Like, I literally forgot that, I forgot I got chased and like got run off the road and, all these things. And I'm like, oh, wow. So this is like, it really brought out a lot. And I think a lot of us are afraid of that. Yeah. Like you just said, like, you were afraid to like remember some things, or bring up some things. So it was a lot of encouraging, a lot of talks, and a lot of these women in these books, and I'm so proud of them, because probably half of them were ready to walk. Like, no, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I'm not ready. But they did.
Yeah.
Right.
And took off from there. Like whether they started a business, whether they started a nonprofit, helping other women, like all doing something with it.
Right. Exactly. So for those of you just joining us, we're talking with Emilio and Daniela Roman about healing and how it happens together. And they, through their relationship, which happened many years after they first met each other in high school, they were able to hold space for one another to heal and to clear away some of the wreckage of the past. Even though you can't go back and change the past, you can clear away the wreckage that happens within ourselves emotionally. And we've been sharing about these stories. So one of the things that I want to ask you is, a lot of people will get so there are 12-step rooms for just about everything.
Yes.
Alcoholics, drug addicts, friends and families of drug addicts, Overeaters Anonymous,
Al-Anon, and all of those.
Al-Anon, yep, exactly. And so I love the fact that these rooms are around. They call them the rooms, that these programs are around, because I think everybody and anybody is somehow qualified to be in one of those meetings, right? Wouldn't you agree? We all have a bunch of, hey, listen, this world is a crazy place to live, right?
That's right.
Just pick up the phone and call one of your friends and see what they talk about first. And you'll know, right?
You know, I love what you just said, because if you've been in the rooms, you know, the freedom that comes when you're in the rooms. And even for those that are just have a day of sobriety, 24, and you get to have this exchange. And when they're reading the promises, what's called the promises, and they're going around that, and they say, we're all here because we're not all there, you know?
Yeah, we're all here because we're not all there. Exactly.
And that is just so many great conversations, to your point. And one of the things that I noticed that I struggled with, once you've got some sobriety time, right? One of my sponsors at the time told me, don't let the promises keep you from, now I'm getting it all screwed up. Don't let the promises keep you from, getting in the room, because, the promises tell you that you're going to get better. You're going to heal. You're going to recover. And then once those promises begin to manifest, we go, a lot of us go right back out.
Right. Exactly. And that's the thing that we have to be careful of. It's like how, and this is something that I can relate to. Daniela, I don't know if you can as well, but I know that let's say I'm watching what I'm eating and things are going well, and I'm feeling better feeling better physically, my brain is not fogged up about anything or whatever. And then all of a sudden it's like, the ice cream parlor that has the best ice cream in town just opened. I think I'm going to go get some. And then the next thing you know, you're like slipping and sliding and on your way down and splashing into a pool of nonsense that you didn't want to be in, right? And ask me how I know this.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
But getting back on the wagon again, if you will, let's call it the wagon. Getting back on the wagon again is harder than getting off it than getting on it the first time around. Would you agree?
Definitely a challenge. And this is where proximity is important. This is why having people around you who can look at you and say, Teresa, it's okay. Listen, let's get back on this together. Call me. Here's my number.
Yeah, accountability partner.
Yeah,
we all need one.
Yeah,
we all need one. So that goes to the title of the show. Healing happens together, because alone and left to my own devices, oh man, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. So it's just, and I know that you also feel the same way. Emilio, let's talk about what's on the screen. Let's talk about this Born to Risk series that you have going on. How did this get birthed?
Wow, birthed through a lot of what you and I and Daniela have gone through pain, right? So we all go through something, if we're honest with ourselves, most of where we're strongest today comes from our struggles, right? How to turn your struggles into strength. That's really where we're at. So this book here, Born to Risk, and if you can, I know you don't see it here because that's an old mock, but the actual one is Born to Risk, Risking It All, Stories of Courage, right? That's it, Risking It All, Stories of Courage.
Mm-hmm.
We've asked everyone, what's the one risk that changed it all for you? And if we're being honest with ourselves, we've got many risks that we've taken, right? I know you've got one, but what's that one that really changed it all? And so that's what we've asked a lot of the veterans and folks. And again, that was birthed from a real conversation with me, my wife, and like you and I, the reason where we gel, because we know that we all have a story. We all need to share it. And if we don't, and I tell people when I approach them about sharing their story and they said, no, not me, I look at them and I say, Teresa, you're selfish. You know why? You've gone through something. God has gotten you through something. And your story at this point is not about you anymore. It's about another brother or sister that's struggling with addiction, with finances, with pornography. And you mean to tell me you're not ready to share your story?
Mm-hmm.
That's how passionate I feel about it. I do it respectfully, but I do come at people if I know that they've got more to give, because people challenge me.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. And I believe, and Danielle, I know from what you've said, you believe the same thing too. I believe that if we have found our way out the other side of a problem, whatever the problem is, if we found our way out in any way, and there were many problems, like I discovered stuff about myself that I didn't even know once I got away from that one situation that caused me to say enough, and it's got to be different. I had this come to Jesus moment. I looked myself in the mirror and I said, I don't recognize you. Where did you go? So I asked myself two questions. Who are you and why are you here? And I did that from the standpoint. I didn't recognize myself. So that was the first thing. Who am I? Who am I? And then who am I really? Like, who did God create me to be? So who am I really? And why am I here? Why am I still stuck in this situation? And why am I put on this earth at this time for right now? Like, what is my purpose? That was a huge question to ask myself. And it was in doing that I got a little bit of courage in order to be able to take the first steps out of the hell that I was living in. So, yeah. And then, so I found my way out. So it's my responsibility to give somebody else a hand up, not a hand out, a hand up, to get them out of whatever the circumstance or situation is. And God will always give you someone who's going through something that, even if you're not the main person that they connect with, you can always plant a seed of hope in somebody else by sharing your story.
And Teresa, thank you for sharing that. And those two questions that you ask yourself, that was key. Anybody watching this, and I'm going to have to refer, right? Because you and I were having a conversation, all three of us. Shout out to Dizzy D in the background doing his magic. So we thank you for that.
I love Dizzy D.
Dizzy D, appreciate you, my brother. Here's what Teresa she's discovered and what we've all discovered. It's in the question. Quest. Think about it. Quest, right? Is question. So when you understand that you have to ask better questions of yourself and others if you truly want a solution. Because if you and I begin to why me, or as they say in the rooms of alcohol, pour me a drink.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're going to ask questions, don't ask the questions that are just low vibrational, like, oh, why did this happen, with the attitude. If you're going to ask, why did this happen, with a seriousness of, you really want to learn what the lesson was in this mess, you're going to get it. Trust me, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
But so again, learning to ask the questions like Teresa, what were those two questions again that you asked? That was powerful.
Who are you and why are you here?
Man, I think everyone needs to write that down. You need to share this out before you go on and move on into doing what you're doing. Take note of that. I know we're going to ask that question. We're going to, again, because it's not a one-time thing, right? You got to keep asking that, because we evolve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not only that, I'm, and then the two of you have great faith also. So one of my favorite scriptures is, well, there's two of them. I can do I can do all things through him who gives me strength, Philippians 4:13, and also Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And I stand by those two scriptures because when things are going wrong in my life, I remember that I'm here for a purpose and that everything that happens is purposefully put in front of me for my personal growth, for me to become the best person that I can be and whoever he created me to be. So Daniela, I'm going to ask you a question. So now you have this incredible relationship with your husband. You have this business that you are Daniela's Delicious Delights. Tell me how is your ability to cook? How is that relative to your healing? Because healing happens together. So for me, I'm like you. I love to cook. I get great joy out of feeding other people. And I'm guessing that you have the same gene in you as well. So let's talk a little bit about how we can use what God has given us to be able to not just help heal ourselves, but to help heal others through the generosity and the gifts that he's given us. What do you think?
Yeah, so here's the thing, cooking, and without me even knowing it years ago, has always been therapy for me.
Mm-hmm.
Always. And I always, looking back, like how they say hindsight is 2020, right? So I look back and I'm like, every time that, whatever I was going through, challenges, hard times, I'd end up in the kitchen. And when I'm in the kitchen, I remember somebody asked me sometimes, like, what kind, do you listen to music? I'm like, no, I'm in total silence 99% of the time, because that's when I'm like, my wheels are turning, or I'm dealing with whatever I'm going through. I'm trying to figure things out, or I'm thinking of new ideas, or, or just whatever it is. That has always been therapy for me. And then getting back into this, like in the last, it's going on 3 years now with Daniela's Delicious Delights. He'll tell you, like, I'm in here and, you don't even know I'm in here. I'm in the kitchen and I'm like, I could have made 10 things and you don't hear anything. Like, I'm very, like, the way I do things, like, I'm just very, focused, and I'm in a zone and I'm just creating. And, that's what I told a lot of these, all the women in these books, like, find what helps you through your healing. It could be exercise, yoga, dance, gardening. Doesn't matter. Everybody has something, So for him, it was like, working out, whatever. That's always been his thing. And, or just being creative,
Yeah.
So that is definitely therapy, has helped me get through a lot.
Yeah. And everybody knows you're cooking because all you have to do is like open the front door and then the evidence is there, right? Excuse me. Whenever my son comes over for dinner, and when he comes to the house, he opens the door and he goes, God, it smells good in here.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And she loves to cook. I mean, like, just like you, Teresa. I mean, when I open that, I'm like, she goes, get out of there. And I'm just like, she goes, that's not for you. That's for the grandbaby. She's already has it all marked out and divvied out. She goes, only take one of those. Because I'm like, then I got to work out extra hard.
Oh, my goodness. My goodness. Yeah. All the things that we do. What's next for you guys? What's going on next? Let's talk a little bit about what we have going on, what you are part of. I'm going to be a part of. Let's talk about what's going on at the end of May.
Amen.
Ooh,
Yes. So a lot of things are going on, and for your audience, Daniela and I, because of what we do, everything that you just described, we love to serve others. And if you go to our social media and you happen to land on my page, you clearly see I help Christian entrepreneurs monetize their story. So we truly believe that everyone has a story, right? But if you're not telling it, someone else is. And have you ever played the game Whisper Down the Lane? So Teresa, we've done this with 5, 10 people in the room, or 50, and we'll go, Emilio likes hot dogs and relish. By the time it comes back, I'm a vegan, right? And this happens in a room of 5 people with Whisper Down the Lane. So this is why we're encouraging you to go to Teresa, right? Reach out to us, but go to Teresa first and share your story. Teresa has anthologies, and I'm sure she can help you write your own story. And so that's when you say, what goes on with us? Every 3 months, every 90 days, we have an event in our home, And we look for other events, like for example, the one where we're going to see each other here. It's the Guinness World Record event. And Teresa, share it because you're going to be a part of it. What are we going to do there?
So so we've all written something for a book, kind of like the anthologies that I do, right? So the Daily Gift Book series is an anthology series, and we'll talk about that in a second. But we're all going to be in the same room and sign the book. And I'm not exactly sure what the record is right now. Maybe you can tell me. Tell our audience, and maybe there is somebody out there who wants to be involved in this. So if you can give the details, you know it better than I do. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's great. We'll see exactly what Teresa said. We're all going to come together and we're all sharing the story. And the current record is 126 authors signing a book simultaneously. So think about it. Teresa already did hers. I think you did yours, right? Yesterday, right?
I did
and
mine.
so you can share a quote or Bible verse. You can share a little bit more if you like, but we're all coming together. It has to be in a book, okay? And then that book, we're going to be in Philadelphia on the 30th, which is a Saturday. So you can make it. You can make it. Right? Reach out to Teresa or myself. And how exciting. We're going to have an adjudicator, an official person from the Guinness World Record is going to be there, and they're going to tally up, right? They're going to have the book. You must be in the book in order to qualify to be a Guinness World Record holder. Otherwise, you're just a spectator. So that's fine if you want to be a spectator. But here's why they want to do this, Teresa. Teresa and I, we're publishers. So I did this in 2020. And can you see here? You can see this is beat up. My name, Emilio Roman, Guinness World Record. This here, you can take that moniker once it goes from an attempt to an official record. That will open up so many doors for you. So that really is the big thing, that why you want to do it, whether you're a barber or dog walker, it doesn't matter. You now are that dog walker, that barber, that DJ Dizzy D, who's already great. He's now the one, he's the DJ with their Guinness World Record.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's I just think it's so exciting that that people do this sort of thing, and I love the people who are part of this, and that's the reason why I want to be involved, because it's not necessarily about the record, it's about the people. It's always about the people for me. It's about the relationship. It's about building, because hey, listen, if we were supposed to go through life ourselves, we would be the only person on the planet, So, when God created us, he created us for community, and community is huge. When you go through life with other people, it's a lot easier to do. And in order to be able to win this Guinness Book title, you have to have other people to do it with you. So I love that. And so we're going to attempt to break the Guinness World Record for the most number of people signing the book, right? So cool. When you told me about that, I was like,
yeah, oh, you were on it. Yes. Yes.
Maybe we could do it with one of the daily gifts. So first of all, let's talk about gratitude. For the first one was daily gift of gratitude, and all these stories in here about gratitude and how gratitude shifts your mindset and changes your life. And then we went from, when you have a grateful heart, you can become more hopeful. So daily gift of hope was next. And with those two things, and when you embody those two things, you become a much kinder person. So daily gift of kindness. And then all of that put together leaves you a spirit of peace. So daily gift of peace was next. Daily gift of friendship. I ran out of copies of daily gift of friendship, but when you're living life like that, it's easy to have wholesome friendships, right? And now we're doing a daily gift of inspiration. So if you have something that you would like to share, you can just reach out to me at AuthenticEndeavorsPublishing.com, and you can see all about it under the tab that says Daily Gift. And Emilio and Daniela are going to write something in that book, and we are hey, listen, I don't know about you guys, but I think we're stuck. We're stuck together like
yeah. Oh, listen, yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
I'm good with it.
Listen, we said this when we started out how we met, and I just your energy, your love for Christ, and I mean, it was just like I felt like we've known each other. Like, how many of you out there go to an event and like 5 minutes later you're hugging someone? Rarely does that happen. So that's what happened with us. What with me, when I meet someone with the right energy, right? Right. So when we meet someone and you gel, you just know it.
Right.
And that's how it is for us.
And then the beauty of it is that he's married to somebody who I've never met Daniela person to person, but I'm excited to see her at the end of May. And I feel like she's a sister from another mister, if you will.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, listen, we're excited. Thank you for having us this evening. My God, this has been a blessing. I don't know if you can see my eyes. My eyes were dilated today, so I've been doing this the whole time. If you ever had your eyes dilated, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, before we're going to close in about 5 minutes, but I want you to tell people, how can they follow you? What's your social media? How can they follow you? How can they get in touch with you if they want to be part of this? What's going on? And you have another event coming up in August. We're going to Virginia Beach for that event. So let's how can we get in touch with you, people who are listening? And what's your social media? Let's spill the beans, guys. Spill the beans.
For me, on Facebook, just Daniela Roman. And I also have a Daniela's Delicious Delights page. And you can email me at info@danielasdeliciousdelights.com if you want to learn about my kitchen confidence course, where I help mompreneurs become rock stars in the kitchen.
Nice.
No, we love it. And you know what? It's been amazing what she's done. And so what we've done here with us, with the Born to Risk community and co-author, we've actually brought it together. So every 90 days in our home here in South Jersey, we go ahead and we have authors come in, 10 to 15. We put on what's called a mastermind. And she does the cooking. She sponsors it. And it's incredible. So we've been able to put our two loves and passion of helping people, feeding people. And it's a healing experience. It's such a healing experience. We got to get you to one of them. But EmilioRoman.com, for those of you that want to follow me, I've had that site up for 15 years. Born to Risk is the series, just like the wonderful series that you have. This has now turned into a documentary. You can go watch the documentary for free at borntorisk.com. And we keep putting out a new series. We now have, and you know what? I'll share it with you for the first time. We haven't even revealed it to our tribe, but in 2027, we're going to have the Born to Risk, a martial arts series. So where we're highlighting the top martial artists in the world. Just for you, exclusive. Just for you.
Awesome. Perfect. And now what about social media? You have your Emilio Roman, Reverend Emilio Roman on social media. Yes.
Yes.
And all of the information is scrolling along the bottom, will be at the bottom of in the description.
Thank you,
on YouTube and on the Facebook channel. Facebook, we go live on my Facebook page, and we also post to Conversations That Make a Difference podcast Facebook page. Hey, Emilio and Daniela, I cannot thank you enough for coming on the show today. This has been wonderful. It's been a lot of information, and you are definitely an example of how healing happens together. Thank you so much for sharing your stories, taking the risk, because we are born to risk, right?
Right. That's right. That's the truth.
Taking the risk of sharing who you are and how you be in the world, and how you help other people in the many different ways that you show up. And I'm just grateful to know both of you. And for those of you who are listening, be sure to reach out to them. They are wonderful people. And remember this, these conversations that make a difference, you should be having them every day. And I'm not going to say should on you, but every conversation that you have makes a difference to somebody else in one way or another, whether you're giving direction, whether you're sharing your story, whatever the case may be. We are meant to live in community, and by speaking to one another and sharing good conversations, we make a difference. And the day that I stood in front of that mirror and asked myself those two questions, who are you and why are you here? That made the biggest difference in my life, because I believe that God put me there, and God made me ask those questions so that I would move my butt out of something that was strangling who I was. So the conversations that you're having with everybody else and the conversations that you're having with yourself are making a difference. One way or the other, they make a difference. So my hope for you is that you will take this information, it will make a difference in your life, and you'll come back next time for the next conversation that makes a difference. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
That brings us to the close of another episode of Conversations That Make a Difference with host Teresa Velardi. We want to sincerely thank you for tuning in and sharing your time with us today. Our greatest hope is that today's discussion inspired your personal growth, encouraged you to share your unique gift, and gave you the courage to write your own magnificent story. If this message resonated with you, let's keep the conversation going. Take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube, and follow us on our Conversations That Make a Difference Facebook page. This will ensure you never miss a moment of inspiration. We air new episodes every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It truly helps us reach and empower more people. Until next time, keep making a difference. We look forward to welcoming you back next Tuesday to our next conversation.